Well, welcome to confirmation for First Lutheran and our Saviors. So this is for our first year students, and as you can see, I'm in my wife's office right now, and this is because it's been crazy here. I have my daughter at home for distance learning, and this is one of the few places where today I was able to actually be able to record this and have her do her lessons at the same time. So that's part of the reason why we're doing it this way, is because I know all of you are at least at hybrid right now, and you're kind of thinking, well, I don't really want to do confirmation as well. So all you got to do is watch the videos. We're going to reduce the number of sermon notes that you need to do, but we'll figure that out once we resume. So right now, remember, you will get credit for everything you've turned in. So just remember that. So today we're going to talk about Ruth, and there is a decent video for Spark House that I'm going to play in just a little bit.
Hey everyone! It's that time again! It's time to play What Do You Do Now? Let's meet today's contestants. First, we have a young Moabite woman who was recently widowed and lives with her mother-in-law. Her interests are weaving and having enough to eat. Let's hear it for Orpah! Next, we have another recently widowed young woman from Moab.
Hi.
Who is also living with her mother-in-law. She enjoys herding goats and drinking water. Please welcome Ruth! And finally, originally from Israel, mother-in-law to both Orpah and Ruth, and also recently widowed. Her interests are grieving and not being in Moab. Put your hands together for Naomi! All right, let's get ready to play the only game available after a huge life event. What do you do now? First up, Naomi. What are you going to do now that... Well, we are off to the races, folks. Looks like Naomi didn't need to think for long. She's decided to go back to her homeland of Israel. Things are getting interesting. I've just received word that Naomi has also released Orpah and Ruth from any obligations they might have had as her daughters-in-law. So, the decision is all on them. Whoa! It looks like Orpah doesn't need to be told twice. She's going to stay with her people, the Moabites. And so it's down to Ruth. What do you do now? It looks like you're a little on the fence with this, Ruth. So let's take a closer look at your options. Option 1. You could move to the land of the Hebrews, a place where nobody speaks your language and would regard you as an outsider. But wait, there's more! You'd be living in poverty with your ex-mother-in-law, Naomi, who recently changed her name to Mara, which means bitter. Or, option 2, stay in your homeland of Moab, where you'll be accepted. Everyone speaks your language, and you're much, much more likely to find a husband who can provide for you. So, what do you do now? Ooh, there's the horn. You now have 10 seconds left to make the decision that will impact your entire life. What's it going to be, Ruth? Is it husband or Hebrews? Moab or mother-in-law? Wait, where's Ruth? Is she with the Moabites? No. Can it be? Yes! In a huge upset, Ruth has decided to not return to her people, but stay with her ex-mother-in-law, formerly known as Naomi. And I thought I'd seen everything. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Now, stay tuned for the brand new sitcom, Why Would Ruth Do That?
All right, so Ruth. So I think it's important for us to realize what's going on here. So this is a book that probably none of you have read. I didn't read it until I was in seminary. That's where I went to school to get my degree for ordination. And so this is in between the books of Joshua and Judges. Remember the Judges we talked about last time. And the book of Ruth is dealing with real life and how it affects people. But here is the real important thing: is there was this big famine, and you heard what happened was that Naomi let her two daughters-in-law do whatever they wanted, and Ruth decided to tag along, and they ended. And the important part here is that the reason why it's in the Bible is that Ruth is an ancestor of King David, and King David is an ancestor of Jesus Christ. And so that's why it's in here, and that's why her story is kind of intriguing, at least. So let's go and let's read from Ruth. Now this is from Ruth chapter 1, 16 through 18. But Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you will go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Our people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely. Even death separates you and me." When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. So the important thing here is that Ruth isn't exactly a Jewish person right now. And so here's the thing, is that even bitter enemies and even people that are rivals can be friends, and they can get along. And, God wanted to include everyone. So as we saw in the video, she's giving up a lot. Now, it wasn't quite as good as what was in the video, but she's giving up a lot. I mean, she's going to a place where nobody speaks her language. She's going to a place where everybody's going to treat her differently, and she has no idea what's going on. So let's jump ahead to chapter 3. All right, so let's go to chapter 3. This is Ruth and Boaz. So Boaz is going to be her husband eventually. So one day, Ruth's mother-in-law, Naomi, said to her, "My daughter, I must find a home. For you there will be well provided for." Now this is my commentary. Remember that back then, women were treated differently than they are now, which is unfortunate. Now, Boaz, with those women you have worked, it is a relative of ours. Tonight he will be put winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Wash, put on perfume, get dressed in your best clothes, and then go down to the threshing floor, but do not let him know that you are there until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, note the place where he is lying, then go uncover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do. "I will do whatever you say," Ruth answered. So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law told her to do. When Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he went over to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and laid down. In the middle of the night, something startled the man. He turned, and there was a woman lying at feet. "Who are you?" "I am your servant Ruth," she said. "Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a guardian redeemer of our family." "The Lord bless you, my daughter," he replied. "This kindness is greater than what you have shown me earlier. But you have not run after the younger men, the rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I do for all you ask. All the people of my town know that you are a woman of noble character. Although it's true that I am the guardian redeemer of the family, there is another who is more closely related than I. Stay here for the night, and in the morning he wants to do this duty as your guardian redeemer. Let him redeem you. But he is not willing. As surely as the Lord lives, I will do it. Lie here until morning." He lay at his feet until morning. He got up. Anybody you could recognize. No one must know that a woman came to the threshing floor. He also said, bring me a shawl, and prepared to hold it out. And he poured into 6 measures of barley, uh, placed a bundle on her, and went back to town. And Ruth came back to the mother-in-law. Naomi says, how did it go, my daughter? And then he told her everything Boaz told her. And he gave 6 measures of barley, and then said, wait, daughter, until you find out what happens, for the man will not rest until the matter is settled today. All right. So, how do you feel about this, right? So, how do you feel about Ruth and Naomi's actions? Well, it's kind of weird because if we look at it the way it sounds in English, it doesn't sound that interesting. Except that he keeps calling her my daughter, and apparently back then that was a uh, fatherly phrase. So it doesn't necessarily mean that she was his daughter. Okay, it's more like he was much older than her and was being more fatherly to her. However, she's trying to get him to be her husband. Okay, so women can do almost anything now, and they don't need to be married. But it's also easier when you find that one person to be your helper, and you find that person. And so that's marriage is still important, but it's not as required as it was back then. Um, and so we have these weird actions, and so she's basically what she's trying to do is she's trying to find somebody that was next of kin. Okay, so when there was a widow in the Jewish society, what would happen was is that the next of kin would take them in and become and take them as their own until they had an heir, and this was to continue the family line. And so this is pretty long. So, but let's go on. So remember, at the very end, and we're not going to go over this. We're not going to go over this at all because it's too long. But at the very end, Ruth has a son whose name is Obed, and that's the father of Jesse, and Jesse is the father of David. And David is the second king of Israel, and Jesus is in the line of David. So that's what's important here. We need to realize that this lady that had no no connection to the Israelites, she was called by God to come and be with them. And then eventually she became the beginning of the house of David. So that's what's important here. So I know that this book isn't the most exciting book in the Bible, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next week.